Good afternoon. My name is Grace Williams, and I'm here to tell you just a few fun facts about the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act came about during the 1960s as a result of Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency. One of the things he said during his State of the Union address was that people didn't know how to get themselves out of poverty situations, that the people needed to change and not the schools needing to change. So he decided to put a war on poverty. And when he rolled that out, he rolls out what becomes one of the biggest pieces of legislation that we've ever seen geared towards the education community. That legislation was signed in 1965 and has taken on many evolutions during the last 50 years. They believed at that time that lack of money was why children were educationally challenged, and that if we just increased the dollar amount, that the education level would therefore increase. And that if we increased the education level, then we would get these people out of their poverty situations that, due to their lack of education, they just didn't know how to get themselves out of that. And so the smarter we could make them, the more they would be able to get themselves out of poverty situations, and the better the country would be as a whole. And they really believed that once we created equity amongst all of the schools, that educators would just instinctively know what to do to bring them up. So at this point, it was really just about throwing dollars at the situation and not about training anyone to make a difference in a child's life through better curriculum, better instruction, things like that. Now, initially though, even though their commitment was to throw dollars at the situation, that still did not come to fruition in the early days. Johnson's administration committed that they were going to put more than $5 billion a year towards this by the year 1969, which would have been during his 4-year time as president. In reality, though, only $1.7 billion of those dollars trickled down to those schools during that time, creating an inequity of $3.3 billion during those 4 years, which meant that really the schools at the school level and for each child, they only received about $40 per child to increase and bring them out of their poverty situation. There was very little that could be done at $40 per child. Now that has dramatically changed over the years, but it was the beginning of that time where we start focusing on the child and what the child needs rather than how to help the school. And so we're seeing that over and over, because this was the beginning of where we've seen things like Title I education, education for migrant workers and assistance for them, exceptional education. All of those different programs that we are now so familiar with in education were born out of the inception in the 1960s of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. And while that was just a nugget and morsel, it lets you know where we started in terms of government reach in through federal programs. Thank you.